Good evening, everyone. Sheepy ASMR here, and I'm back. There's a lot of reasons why I've been gone, but honestly, I don't really want to get into excuses. Today I'm going to be reading Hush Hush Chapter 4. I I hadn't done any more Hush Hush videos because I honestly just didn't think anyone liked them. But I did get one comment, so somebody is invested in the story and I can't leave them hanging. Sorry there's no video feed. I think I'm actually sick with COVID. So I look like a mess. And you may hear background noises because it is daytime and the neighborhood is alive. So I'm just gonna put like a video of me drawing as something for you to look at as I read Hush Hush Chapter 3 from Becca Fitzpatrick, okay? Okay, Chapter 4, my bad. Did I say Chapter 3? You can't be too mad at me because I think I have COVID. I just got tested today. I don't know, we'll find out. Okay, Chapter 4. Flying down from Hawthorne, I drove past my house, circled back, cut over the beach, and headed back toward the center of Coldwater. I speed dialed V. Something happened. Out of nowhere, the neon, you're breaking up. What? I wiped my nose with the back of my hand and I was trembling down to my toes. He came out of nowhere. Who? I tried to net my thoughts and funnel them into words. He jumped in front of the car. Oh man. You hit a deer? Are you okay? What about Bambi? She half wailed, half groaned. The neon? I opened my mouth, but V cut me off. Forget it. I've got insurance. Just tell me there aren't deer parts all over my baby. No deer parts, right? Whatever answer I was about to give faded into the background. My mind was 2 steps ahead. A deer. Maybe I could pass the whole thing off as hitting a deer. I wanted to confide in V, but I didn't want to sound crazy either. How was I going to explain watching the guy I hit rise to his feet and begin tearing the car door? I stretched my collar down past my shoulder. No red marks where he'd gripped me that I could see. I came to myself with a start. Was I actually considering denying it had happened? I knew what I'd seen. It was not my imagination. Holy freak show, V said. You're not answering. The deer is lodged in my headlights, isn't he? You're driving around with him stuck to the front of my car like a snowplow. Can I sleep at your place? I wanted to get off the streets. Out of the dark, with a sudden intake of air, I realized to get to V's, I'd have to drive back to the intersection where I'd hit him. I'm down in my room, said V. Let yourself in. See you in a few. With my hands tight on the steering wheel, I pushed the neon through the rain, praying the light at Hawthorne would be green in my favor. It was, and I floored it through the intersection, keeping my eyes straight ahead, but at the same time stealing glimpses into the shadows along with the side of the road. There was no sign of the guy in the ski mask. 10 minutes later, I parked the neon in V's driveway. The damage to the door was extensive, and I had to put my foot to it and kick my way out. Then I jogged to the front door, bolted myself inside, and hurried down the basement stairs. V was sitting cross-legged on her bed, notebook propped between her knees, earbuds in, iPod turned all the way. Do I want to see the damage tonight, or should I wait until I've had at least 7 hours of sleep? She called out over the music. Maybe option 2, I replied. V snapped the notebook shut and tugged at the earbuds. Let's get this over with. When we got outside, I stared at the neon for a long moment. It wasn't a warm night, but the weather wasn't the cause of the goosebumps rippling over my arms. That doesn't make any sense. Sorry, I know I said I wouldn't interject anymore. I just have a hard time sometimes, like if it's not a warm night. I don't know, whatever. No smashed driver's side window, no bend in the door. Something's not right, I said, but V wasn't listening. She was busy inspecting every square inch of the neon. I stepped forward and poked the driver's side window. Solid glass. I closed my eyes. When I reopened them, the window was still intact. I walked around the back of the car. I'd completed almost a full circle when I came up short. A fine crack bisected the windshield. V saw it at the same time. Are you sure it wasn't a squirrel? My mind flashed back to the lethal eyes behind the ski mask. They were so black I couldn't distinguish the pupils from the irises. Black like patches. Look at me. I'm crying tears of joy, Fee said, sprawling herself across the neon's hood in a hug. A teeny tiny crack. That's it. I manufactured a smile, but my stomach soured. 5 minutes ago, the window was smashed out and the door was bowed. Looking at the car now, it seemed impossible. No, it seemed crazy. But I saw his fist punch through the glass, and I felt his fingernails bite into my shoulder. Hadn't I? The harder I tried to recall the crash, the more I couldn't. Little blips of missing information cut across my memory. The details were fading. Was he tall, short, thin, bulky? Had he even said anything? I couldn't remember. That was the most frightening part. V and I left her house at 7:15 the following morning and drove to Enzo's bistro to grab a breakfast of steamed milk. With my hands wrapped around my china cup, I tried to warm away the deep chill inside me. I'd showered, put on a camisole and cardigan borrowed from V's closet, and slipped on some makeup, but I hardly remembered doing it. Don't look now, but Mr. Green Sweater keeps looking my way, estimating your long legs through your jeans. Oh, he just saluted me. I'm not kidding. Like a little 2-finger military salute. How adorable. I wasn't listening. Because Nora's a bad friend. Anyway, last night's accident had replayed itself in my head all night, chasing away any chance of sleep. My thoughts were in tangles, my eyes were dry and heavy, and I couldn't concentrate. Mr. Green Sweater looks normal, but his wingman looks hardcore bad boy, said V. It meant a certain don't mess with me signal. Tell me he doesn't look like Dracula's spawn. Tell me I'm imagining things. Sorry, I really love V. Lifting my eyes just high enough to get a look at him without appearing that I was, I took in his fine-boned, handsome face. Blonde hair hung at his shoulders, eyes the color of chrome. Unshaven, impeccably dressed in a tailored jacket over his green sweater and designer dark jeans. I said, "You're imagining things." Did you miss the deep-set eyes, the widow's peak, the tall, lanky build? He might even be tall enough for me. V is closing in on 6 feet tall, but she has a thing for heels. High heels. She has a thing about not dating shorter guys. Okay, what's wrong? You've gone all incommunicado. This isn't about the crack in my windshield, is it? So what if you hit an animal? It could happen to anyone. Granted, the chances would be a lot slimmer if your mom relocated out of the wilderness. I was going to tell V the truth about what happened soon. I just needed a little time to sort out the details. The problem was, I didn't see how I could. The only details left were spotty at best. It was as if an eraser had scrubbed my memory blank. That's a really good simile, Becca Fitzpatrick. I never would have thought of... You know what? Let's move on. Thinking back, I remembered the heavy rain cascading down the neon's windows, causing everything outside to blur. Had I in fact hit a deer? Check it out, said V. Mr. Green Sweater is getting out of his seat. Now that is a body that hits the gym regularly. He is definitely making his way toward us, his eyes pursuing the real estate, your real estate, that is. A half beat later, we were greeted with a low, pleasant, hello. V and I looked up at the same time. Mr. Green Sweater stood just back from our table, his thumbs hooked in the pockets of his jeans. He was blue-eyed with stylishly shaggy blonde hair swept across his forehead. Sorry, he just sounds like a hick. Hello yourself, said V. I'm V. This is Nora Gray. I frowned at V. I did not appreciate her tagging on my last name, feeling that it violated an unspoken contract between girls, let alone best friends, upon meeting unknown boys. I gave a half-hearted... That's a fair point. I gave a half-hearted wave and brought my cup to my lips, immediately scalding my tongue. He dragged a chair over from the next table and sat backward on it, his arms resting where his back should have been. Holding a hand out to me, he said, I'm Elliot Saunders. Feeling way too formal, I shook it. And this is Jules, he said, jerking his chin toward his friend. Actually, you know what? I think Elliot's gonna have a southern accent. I'm Elliot Saunders. Feeling way too formal, I shook it. And this is Jules, he said, jerking his chin toward his friend, whom V had grossly underestimated by calling tall. Jules lowered all of himself into his seat beside V, dwarfing the chair. She said to him, I think you might be the tallest guy I've ever seen. Seriously, how tall are you? 6'10", Jules muttered, slumping in his seat and crossing his arms. Elliot cleared his throat. Can I get you ladies something to eat? I'm fine, I said, raising my cup. I already ordered. V kicked me under the table. She'll have a vanilla cream filled donut. Make it too. So much for the diet, huh? I asked V. Let's just give a moment of silence for any respect that we should have for Nora Gray. Anyway. Hi yourself. The vanilla bean is a fruit, a brown fruit. It's a legume. You sure about that? I wasn't entirely sure. Jules closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Apparently, he was as thrilled to be sitting with us as I was to have them here. As Elliot walked to the front counter, I let my eyes trail after him. He was definitely in high school, but I hadn't seen him at CHS before. I would remember. He had a charming, outgoing personality that didn't fade into the background. If I wasn't feeling so shaken, I might have actually taken an interest in friendship or maybe more. Do you live around here? Fee asked Jules. Go to school? Kinghorn Prep. There was a tinge of superiority in the way he said it, like Kinghorn Prep. Never heard of it. Private school, Portland. We start at 9. He lifted his sleeve and glanced at his watch. Fee dipped a finger in the froth of her milk and licked it off. Anyway, is it expensive? Jules looked at her directly for the first time, his eyes stretched, showing a little more white around the edges. Are you rich? I bet you are, she said. Jules eyed Fee like she just killed a fly on his forehead. He scraped his chair back several inches, distancing himself from us. Elliot returned with a box of half dozen donuts. 2 vanilla creams for the... 2 vanilla creams for the ladies, he said, pushing the box toward me, and 4 glaze for me. Well, I guess I'd better fill up now, since I don't know what the cafeteria is like at Coldwater High. This is offensive. We nearly spewed her milk. You go to CHS. As of today, I just transferred from Kinghorn Prep. Nora and I go to CHS, V said. I hope you appreciate your good fortune. Anything you need to know, including who you should invite to the spring fling, just ask. Nora and I don't have dates. Yet. I decided it was time to part ways. Jules was obviously bored and irritated, and being in his company wasn't helping my already restless mood. I made a big presentation of looking at the clock on my cell phone and said, we'd better get to school, V. We have a bio test to study for. Elliot and Jules, it was nice meeting you. Our bio test isn't until Friday, said V. On the inside, I cringed. On the outside, I smiled through my teeth. Right, I meant to say I have an English test. The works of Geoffrey Chaucer. Everyone knew I was lying. In a remote way, my rudeness bothered me, especially since Elliot hadn't done anything to deserve it. But I didn't want to sit here any longer. I wanted to keep moving forward, distancing myself from last night. Maybe the diminishing memory wasn't such a bad thing. After all, the sooner I forget the incident, the sooner my life would resume its normal pace. I hope you have a great... Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I hope you have a great first day, and maybe we'll see you at lunch, I told Elliot. Then I grabbed Via by her elbow and steered her out the door. The school day was almost over, only biology left, and after a quick stop by my locker to exchange books, I headed to class. Via and I arrived before Patch. She slid into his empty seat and dug through her backpack, pulling out a box of hot tamales. One red fruit coming right up, she said, offering me the box. Let me guess, cinnamon is a fruit. I pushed the box away. You didn't eat lunch either, V said, frowning. I'm not hungry. Liar, you're always hungry. Is this about Patch? You're not worried he's really stalking you, are you? Because last night, that whole thing at the library, I was just joking. I massaged small circles into my temples. The dull ache had taken up residence behind my eyes, flared at the mention of Patch. Patch is the least of my worries, I said. It wasn't exactly true. My seat, if you don't mind. V and I looked up simultaneously at the sound of Patch's voice. He sounded pleasant enough, but his eyes trained on V as she rose and slung her backpack over her shoulder. It appeared she couldn't move fast enough. He swept his arm toward the aisle, inviting her out of his way. Looking good as always, he said to me, taking his chair. He leaned back in it, stretching his legs out in front of him. I'd known all along he was tall, but I never put a measurement to it. Looking at the length of his legs now, I guessed him to top out at 6 feet, maybe even 6'1". That's not that tall, Nora. Anyway. Thank you, I answered without thinking. Immediately, I wanted to take it back. Thank you? Of all the things I could have said, thank you was the worst. I didn't want Patch thinking I liked his compliments because I didn't. For the most part. It didn't take much perception to realize he was trouble. And I'd have enough of trouble in my life already. No need to invite more. Maybe if I ignored him, he'd eventually give up initiating conversation. And then we could sit side by side in silent harmony, like every other partnership in the room. You smell good too, said Patch. It's called a shower. I was staring straight ahead. When he didn't answer, I turned sideways. Soap, shampoo, hot water, naked. I know the drill. I opened my mouth to change the subject when the bell cut me off. I don't remember Coach's voice. What voice did I do for Coach? I don't know. He's gonna be a man. Put your textbooks away, Coach said from behind his desk. I'm handing out a practice quiz to get you warmed up for this Friday's a real one. Sometimes I read sentences and I don't know what they mean. English was my first language, but maybe even a first language isn't even a fluent one. Anyway. He stopped in front of me, licking his fingers as he tried to separate the quizzes. I want 15 minutes of silence while you answer the questions. Then we'll discuss Chapter 7. Good luck. I worked through the first several questions, answering them with a rhythmic outpouring of memorized facts. If nothing else, the quiz stole my concentration, pushing last night's accident and the voice at the back of my head, questioning my sanity to the sidelines. Pausing to shake a cramp out of my writing hand, I felt Patch lean toward me. You look tired. Rough night? He whispered. I saw you at the library. I was careful to keep my pencil gliding over my quiz, seemingly hard at work. The highlight of my night. Were you following me? He tipped his head back and laughed softly like this. Ha 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 ha. I tried a new angle. What were you doing there? Getting a book. I felt Coach's eyes on me and dedicated myself to the quiz. After answering several more questions, I stole a glimpse to my left. I was surprised to find Patch already watching me. He grinned. My heart did an unexpected flip, startled by his bizarre, attractive smile. To my horror, I was so taken aback, I dropped my pencil. It bounced on the tabletop a few times before rolling over the edge. Patch bent to pick it up. He held it out in the palm of his hand, and I had to focus not to touch his skin as I took it back. After the library, I whispered. Where did you go? Why? Did you follow me? I demanded in an undertone. You look a little on edge, Nora. What happened? His eyebrows lifted in concern. It was all for show, because there was a taunting spark at the center of his black eyes. Are you following me? Why would I follow you? Answer the question. Nora. That was loud. Sorry. The warning in Coach's voice pulled me back to my quiz, but I couldn't help speculating about what Patch's answer might have been. It had me wanting to slide far away from him, across the room, across the universe. Coach chirped his whistle. Time's up. Pass your quizzes forward. Be expecting similar questions this Friday now. He sanded his hands together. The dry sound of it made me shiver like this. Like that. For today's lesson, Miss Sky, do you want to take a stab at our topic? SEX, V announced. Precisely after she did, I tuned out. Was Patch following me? Was he the face behind the ski mask? And if there was a face behind a mask, what did he want? I hugged my elbows, suddenly feeling very cold. I wanted my life to go back to the way it was before Patch barged into my life. At the end of class, I stopped Patch from leaving. Can we talk? He was already standing, so he took a seat at the edge of his table. What's up? I know you don't want to sit next to me any more than I want to sit next to you. I think Coach might consider changing our seats if you talk to him, if you explain the situation. The situation? We're not compatible. He rubbed a hand over his jaw, a calculating gesture I'd grown accustomed to in only a few short days of knowing him. We're not? I'm not announcing groundbreaking. Sorry. That's called a speech impediment, y'all. I'm not announcing groundbreaking news here. When Coach asked for my list of desired characteristics in a mate, I gave him you. Take that back. Intelligent, attractive, vulnerable. You disagree? He was only doing this for the sole purpose of antagonizing me, and that only flustered me more. Will you ask Coach to change our seats or not? Pass. You've grown on me. What was I supposed to say to that? He was obviously aiming to get a reaction out of me, which wasn't difficult, seeing as how I could never tell him when he was joking and when he was sincere. I tried to inject a measure of self-composure into my voice. I think you'd be much better seated with someone else. And I think you know it. I smiled, tense but polite. I think I can end up next to V. His smile appeared just as polite. And I'm not going to press my luck. V appeared next to our table, glancing between me and Patch. Interrupting something? No, I say, yanking my backpack shut. I was asking Patch about tonight's reading, but I couldn't remember which pages Coach assigned. V said. The assignment's on the board, same as always, as if you hadn't already read it. Patch laughed, seemingly sharing a private joke with himself. Not for the first time, I wish I knew what he was thinking, because sometimes I was positive these private jokes had everything to do with me. Anything else, Nora? He asked. No. See you tomorrow, I said. Looking forward to it. He winked. Actually winked. After Patch was out of earshot, V grabbed my arm. Good news, Cipriano. That's his last name. I saw it on Coach's class roster. And that's something to smile out because Everyone knows students are required to register prescription drugs with the nurse's office. She tugged at the front pocket of my backpack where I kept my iron pills. Likewise, everyone knows the nurse's office is conveniently located inside the front office, where, as it happens, student files are also kept. Eyes aglow, V locked her arm in mine and pulled me toward the door. Time to do some real sleuthing. And that is the end of chapter 4. I feel like I already read this chapter, but tell me what you guys think. What's gonna go on? What's V's crazy plan this time? Yeah, I hope you guys have a good